Have you ever wondered if there were someone who truly knew everything, how much that person would have to pay? Picture a king standing on the peak of the world, looking down upon the 9 realms as if they were a chessboard. Not because he is the strongest or the most immortal, but because he dares to do what no one else dares, to tear out his own eye in exchange for knowledge, to hang himself upon the world tree to seize the universe's hidden secrets, and to live his entire life haunted by the fear that no matter how much he knows, there will come a day when he cannot prevent the end of all things. His name is Odin, and the greater question is not who he is, but whether knowledge can truly save a god at all, or whether the more you know, the more you suffer, the more alone you become, the closer you draw to the brutal truth that some destinies cannot be bent, not even by one who knows everything. In Norse tales, Odin is not a gentle deity who merely blesses. He is a blizzard, a spear point, the cry of ravens over a battlefield, the stare of a being who has never slept in peace. Odin is the king of Asgard, father to many gods, master of Valhalla where the slain are carried. Yet what makes him frightening is not the throne but his hunger for knowledge, a hunger so deep it gnaws at flesh and bone and the very marrow of his soul. For Odin does not rule within a universe that is guaranteed the way many mythologies promise. In the Norse world, reality is not safe. It is built from the blood of a primordial giant, surrounded by chaos and trembling beneath the prophecy of Ragnarök. The day gods and monsters tear each other apart, fire devours the earth, and even Asgard is reduced to ash. In a place like that, knowledge is not a luxury. Knowledge is a weapon, and Odin is addicted to that weapon. Begin with the image most people recognize. A man in a wide-brimmed hat, wrapped in a dark cloak, walking alone through cold wind. On his shoulders sit 2 ravens with eyes black as midnight. At his feet pad 2 wolves, silent as shadows. In his hand is a spear that never misses its mark. Odin appears as a wanderer because he refuses to sit still in a palace. He travels, disguises himself, questions, tests, listens, hunting information, the way a predator hunts prey, because what he wants is not gold, but the smallest stories the world can offer. His ravens, Hugin and Munin, thought and memory, fly each morning across the 9 realms, seeing everything, hearing everything, and in the evening they return to Odin's shoulders to whisper what they have found. But if he is the king of the gods, why does he need ravens as spies? If he is supreme wisdom, why does he fear missing a single fragment of news? Because Odin does not believe in safety. He believes in information, and he fears something painfully human. He fears the day he can no longer control tomorrow. In some tellings, Odin even worries that Munin will not return, that memory itself will fail to come back. Even the hunter of knowledge is haunted by the terror of forgetting, of losing the self, of losing the continuity of consciousness, a fear that no longer resembles divinity at all, but feels like an old man staring into a mirror and realizing time is winning. Yet Odin is never satisfied. Daily reports are not enough. He wants knowledge at a deeper level, where destiny itself is written. And to reach that level, Odin must pay prices that make the blood run cold. The first price is an eye. Beneath one of the roots of Yggdrasil lies a well, Mimir's well, where the water is not ordinary water, but the memory of the universe, the understanding of law and pattern, the sight that pierces the fog of the present. Odin comes not as a beggar, but as a gambler. He wants a single drink, and Mimir names the cost as 1 eye, not gold, not an oath, but a part of the body, a part of the ability to see the world. Odin agrees. He tears out his eye and drops it into the well, blood falling into ancient water like a deposit that can never be withdrawn. Then he drinks, and knowledge floods him like breaking ice. The invisible lines of fate appear like a map. Odin sees not only what is happening, but what will happen. And the true price is not merely losing an eye, but the way he will see life from that moment on. One mortal eye to look at the present, and one eye of truth to look into destiny. And truth is rarely gentle. If you knew the bad thing was coming, what would you do? If you knew you would lose the one you love, would you live differently? If you knew that every effort would still end in tragedy, would you still dare to love, to hope, to believe? Knowledge is no longer a warm light now. It is the cold lamp in an operating room. It helps you see clearly, and it also makes you tremble. And still Odin does not stop. Drinking from the well gives him vision, but he wants more. The language of the universe, the signs that shape reality, the secrets that might unlock fate itself. And to seize it, Odin chooses a second price, even more terrifying. He hangs himself. Upon Yggdrasil, the world tree that binds the 9 realms, Odin pierces himself with his own spear and hangs suspended for 9 days and 9 nights. No food, no water, no rescue, only cold wind and emptiness. This is not a heroic dare. It is a ritual of self-sacrifice. Odin offers himself to himself, as if he is simultaneously the victim, the priest, and the god who witnesses. In pain, at the border between life and death, he looks down and sees dim symbols rising like ghosts on the surface of water. The runes, carved marks filled with power. He grasps them like a drowning man clutching a rope, and when he falls from the tree, he carries the runes with him, carrying something that can forge charms, heal, bind, break curses, command reality itself. Why would a god go that far? Because in Norse thought, great knowledge does not arrive as a free gift. It is born from price, from passing through death, and Odin does not learn the runes through pure reason. He learns them by touching death, as if to remind us that some understandings only open when a part of your old self has already died. But once Odin has the runes and the vision, the story darkens. Because the clearer he sees, the more clearly he sees what he fears most. Ragnarök is real. Odin knows the wolf Fenrir will kill him. He knows the world serpent coiled around the earth will be slain by Thor, and that Thor will fall as well from its venom. He knows Loki will betray and lead the armies of chaos. He knows Surtur's fire will burn everything clean. Odin knows almost everything. And precisely because he knows, he begins to do things that look like strategy on the surface, but deeper down are panic hidden beneath a crown. He builds Valhalla and selects the slain, bringing them back as Einherjar to train each day, feast, fight, die, and rise again, preparing for the final battle. It sounds like a far-sighted war king, but from another angle, it is the desperate gathering of manpower because he knows the day is coming, preparing for a war whose ending he has already seen. To prepare everything while knowing you will lose, to make plans while knowing you will die, and still to do it, because not doing it would make death even more meaningless. Odin has Gungnir, the spear of oaths and war. He has Lidskjalf, the high seat from which he can see across the realms. He has ravens and wolves as eyes and ears scattered through the world. Everything around him becomes a tool of observation and control, as if reality itself is a problem he must solve before it solves him. Yet Odin is also a master of cunning. He deceives, tests, bargains, willing to pay any price and use any method to seize poetry, secrets, prophecy, because he is a king of an age of turmoil, where morality is not a straight line, but something you bend in order to survive. Now we step into the decoding, where Odin becomes more than a character and turns into a symbol. Odin represents the desire to understand to the very end, not the kind of knowledge you gather for display or entertainment, but knowledge you pursue in order to endure. Odin's wisdom is born from storms, from a universe where anything can collapse at any time. That is why people revere a god willing to sacrifice an eye, a body, even peace itself, just to see a little more clearly. This is the Norse spirit, cold, direct, and without promises. The world does not owe you happiness. It only gives you the chance to stand back up. Odin is not a god of happy endings. Odin is a god of knowing and enduring. And his true price is not only an eye or 9 days of hanging, but a lifetime of tension. A lifetime haunted by the future. A lifetime that can never be carefree. Place Odin beside modern seekers of knowledge, and the resemblance is chilling. The scientist staring at climate data, the security expert finding vulnerabilities, the strategist who sleeps less the more reports he reads. Knowledge does not only open your eyes, it opens your anxiety as well. We like to think that knowing more makes us stronger, but knowing more can also become a burden. When you understand consequences too clearly, it is hard to live lightly. When you see failure in advance, you either give up or you become Odin, still preparing even though you know you will fall. That is why Odin's eye is not merely a dramatic detail, but a metaphor for how we trade innocence for depth. The eye is not only for seeing, it is the way we choose to look at life. Odin trades one eye for a deeper gaze, and in doing so, he loses part of ordinary sight, the kind of sight where simple things can simply be beautiful, rather than signs of disaster approaching. Hanging on Yggdrasil is the same. It is a death and rebirth journey, a pattern found in many cultures. But in Odin, it is harsh. Knowledge is not given. It is stolen from the threshold of death. The runes are knowledge turned into symbols, and the modern world also runs on symbols, on code, on algorithms, on invisible lines that decide what you see, what you believe, what you fear. Odin seizing the runes mirrors how humans today seek to grasp the source code of power. Yet Odin is also contradiction, a god of poetry and war, of wisdom and violence, of inspiration and calculation. He reminds us that knowledge does not automatically make anyone better. A brilliant mind can rescue, and it can also manipulate. The power of intelligence always carries a shadow. So why do people still honor Odin? Because Odin is the image of resisting destiny, even when destiny wins in the end. The Old Norse lived among ice, sea, war, hunger. They understood that you could die in a storm, that everything could vanish overnight. For them, hope was not dreaming. It was endurance. Odin teaches that no one promises you victory, but you still must rise and prepare as if doing the right thing matters. This makes Odin deeply human. He admits chaos, admits endings, admits death is coming, and forces us to ask, when you know you will lose, what do you live for? The answer lives in Valhalla, where warriors train, not because they are sure they will win, but because of honor, meaning because they choose to stand in the right place when the last day arrives. It is the same ethic in modern life when facing long wars like illness, poverty, injustice, crisis. You are not sure you will win, yet you act anyway, because if you do nothing, you lose before the fight even begins. And still, the myths do not romanticize Odin. Odin's shadow is an obsession with control. When powerful people believe they know more than everyone else, they can easily claim the right to decide for others. Odin sends agents to test and intervene, chooses who enters Valhalla and who is left behind, seeks an army of the right kind, and this reflects a modern danger, when knowledge and data become an excuse for control. Those who hold information often say they act for the common good, but the line between protection and manipulation is as thin as mist. Odin crosses that line more than once, and the myths are blunt about a hard truth. Wisdom does not exempt you from morality. It only makes your choices heavier, your consequences larger. Perhaps that is why Odin is always alone. The more you know, the harder it is to explain everything. The more you carry the world, the more you feel like the only one awake in a collective dream. And if you look at Odin as a mirror, you can see ordinary life in him. Everyone has wanted to know everything in order to avoid pain, to read the ending in advance to avoid disappointment, to predict betrayal to avoid heartbreak. But ordinary life has no well of Mimir. It has news feeds, data, social media, and the addiction to constant updates. The more you update, the more you worry. The more you worry, the more you search for information. The spiral turns many people into smaller versions of Odin, both eyes intact, yet the mind no longer at rest. So the price of knowing everything is, in the end, the price of peace. The cruelest thing is that Odin knows he will die by Fenrir's jaws, and must live with that knowledge every day. The fear is not death itself, but knowing death in advance. He tries to bargain with fate through Valhalla, through runes, through strategy. But Ragnarök in Norse myth is like the universe's breath, not only punishment, but cycle. The old world burns so a new world can rise. Some tellings say that after Ragnarök, the earth lifts again, green and renewed. A few gods survive, and a new humanity begins. Seen this way, Odin is not only fearful, he is someone who strains to buy time for what he loves. The most beautiful tragedy is that Odin cannot save himself, but he can save meaning. He wants Asgard to fall like a fortress, not like a joke. He wants those who come after to step through the ash with a story to remember, a lesson to keep. And brought into real life, the message cuts sharper. Knowledge does not guarantee happiness, but it can guarantee dignity. Knowing the truth does not make you safe, but it helps you choose how to face the storm. Sometimes the only thing you can control is not the outcome, but the stance you take when the wind arrives. Imagine the last night before Ragnarök. Odin stands alone on Asgard's walls, wind screaming through stone, ravens perched on his shoulder, one eye fixed on the fire of the future, the other on the living who still sleep in the present. In that moment, he is no longer king, no longer sorcerer, no longer war god. He is only a watchman, staying awake so the world can sleep. Knowing dawn may be the final dawn. That is Odin. That is the price of knowing everything. And if you have listened this far, perhaps you carry a piece of Odin within you, not because you want to become a god, but because you have wanted to understand, to prepare, to not be blindsided by life. But remember, Odin paid with an eye and a lifetime without rest. So seek knowledge like Odin, but keep for yourself one place where you can still live as a human. To love without needing to predict, to trust without needing to verify everything, to sleep without carrying the whole world on your chest. Because knowing everything might make you strong, but knowing enough and still having peace, that is something even Odin could not buy.